snaps it anyway. Greer lobs it in the air. Oh! What a catch, Gary Jennings! Touchdown, West Virginia! Is his foot down?
Welcome to the West Coast WVU podcast, part of the 224 Podcast Network. My name is James Brooks. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. I just want to get an episode out because I have some exciting news. I think I've shared it with the podcast, but I will be heading out with my family to Morgantown for the Backyard Brawl later this week. I usually put an episode out on like Wednesday or Thursday, but we're flying out Thursday and going to be packing and stuff Wednesday. So I wanted to get an episode out ASAP. I'm wearing my camo West Virginia hat, but it's camo, so it's not showing up on the screen. Anyways, I'm going to be reviewing West Virginia's game against Ohio last Saturday, and then doing a little quick preview of Pitt and just my predictions and thoughts on the Pitt game, the Backyard Brawl. So let's just hop right on into it. West Virginia had a pretty disappointing matchup against Ohio University on Saturday. We went into Athens, playing in Athens, and I mean, I'll own it. I thought we were going to go in there and take care of business, and we just did not. Just an overall very disappointing performance on both sides of the ball, but especially on the offensive side of the ball. West Virginia ends up losing 17-10 to Ohio in a game where the defense had 3 interceptions and we just couldn't get anything going on offense. To score 10 points against a MAC school in 4 quarters of play when you get 3 interceptions is abysmal football. So pretty disappointing game overall. It just looked bad all over. Markial looked terrible. We put in Henderson for a little bit. He didn't look any good, so they put Nico back in. The only bright spot is Cam Vaughn, who we talked about in last episode. In the first game of the season, he went off with like 7 catches for over 100 plus yards and a touchdown. And again, we're playing Robert Morris, but he had a great game. He looked pretty good. He still looked good when we could get him the ball. There was just a terrible what I'm calling a missed call on a catch that he had down near like Ohio's like 5-yard line where he was going out of bounds. On the replay, it's pretty clear to me that his foot was in bounds as he caught the ball, but it just wasn't clearly obvious, I suppose, to the point where you could overturn it because I think it was called incomplete on the field. So that was pretty disappointing. And the one thing that I mean, how could I forget this? Jaheim White, he left the game early with an injury. I still have not heard. I don't think it's been released what that injury was, but it looked like a lower leg injury that happened on a horse collar play. They did call the penalty, which is a small win. At least they called the penalty, I suppose. But a horse collar play like that, pulling him back, it looked like torn ACL, broken leg, something like that. Just an overall not good situation. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I would be surprised if we saw Jaheim White again this season based on what it looked like. He went off the field, he went into the tent, came out on crutches, got carted off the field. I mean, I guess just speculating doesn't do anybody any good, but this is a fan podcast and I'm not a real journalist. I think I can speculate all I want, but just overall not a good situation. At this point, I am not expecting to see Jaheim White again this season and potentially not again in a West Virginia uniform, which is really unfortunate. The thing is, like, he is by and far the best running back we have on the team. Is he a game stopper, game breaker running back? I don't know. I think there's a lot of criticism on him about him not having a lot of breakaway speed, which I think is true. I mean, you saw in this game, if you go back and watch the game, or if you watch the game, there's a play where he had a big run that I think a lot of college football running backs could have broken off for a touchdown, but I think he got caught from behind. Just things like that but again, I don't want to kick him while he's down with an injury, and let's not pretend like I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think that he's not going to play at West Virginia again if he indeed has a torn ACL or a season-ending injury. It's probably likely. Like, that's something that we should probably prepare for mentally. But it doesn't do any good to like kick someone while he's down. We can go over the play of Jaheim White and how good he is or not at a later date. But that being said, it's still a huge loss. And, a lot of people are saying, would you have rather lost to Ohio and Jaheim stay healthy. Unfortunately, but both of those things happened. We lost to Ohio, and Jaheim got hurt. But between those two, I agree with what I've seen a lot is like I would have rather lost to Ohio and still had Jaheim and had him healthy because so Clay Ash, who I talked about in the last episode, who I thought looked really good in the plays he had against Robert Morris, he was the backup, the RB2 basically after Jaheim, and he did not look good against Ohio. And the thing is, like Ohio's defense is weird. The thing is that what I can't tell is, are we just that bad on offense, or was Ohio's defense pretty good? Because after watching the Rutgers game, I wasn't convinced that Ohio's defense was all that good. I thought for sure, based on what we saw against Robert Morris, and again, understand it was Robert Morris, but what we saw against them, and Cam Vaughn being able to get a ball on the sideline and make a move and make something happen. Jaheim White, I mean, obviously Jaheim White got hurt. I think the biggest issue here is the offensive line. But what I'm curious about is there's so many things that go into it. Was it a team effort where we just suck at all levels of the offense? Receivers not getting open, offensive line not giving quarterback enough time, quarterback not getting the ball out fast enough. I almost think it was all three of those. I mean, I think Cam Vaughn was the thing that's hard when you're watching the game like on the live broadcast is you can't see downfield the receivers on those pass plays. It's hard to see unless they show a replay if our guys are open, and Nico just wasn't getting them the ball because he didn't have enough time or he just wasn't doing it quick enough. The play calling was also really suspect. A lot of weird, like it'd be like 3rd and 2. We need a first down to keep the drive going, and we throw a little toss, like pitch out to the side where we have no good block. Our tight ends can't block, and we just get bottled up for a loss of 2 yards. Things like that, like a suspect play calling. It was a game in which we should have really shortened the field, like tried to shorten up what we were doing. I think we were trying to like get the big play and that kind of stuff at a certain point where we should have just been like, slant routes to Cam Vaughn and little like button hook type plays. Try and pound it up the middle if you can, do a little play action here or there. But our offensive line looked terrible too. So like that being said, there's not a whole lot you can do, but that's also why you want to try and quicken the game up a little bit for the quarterback, where he just knows he has his one read, maybe a second read, but he's getting the ball, getting out of his hands as quick as possible. So, and in this case too, where like we have the line can't hold up, Nico just couldn't move. He looked slow. He looked lost. He looked just out of rhythm, out of sorts. He did not look like a starting quarterback against Ohio. So, and that's the thing is like, had we been able to pull out a win against Ohio, I probably still would have felt not great about moving forward, like the rest of the season and the Pitt game this weekend. I think a win would have been nice, but there's still a lot of question marks as to how well we can fare against actual Power 4 conference competition. And, we've kind of slowly said it. We had an FCS team against Robert Morris, and then Ohio, which is a group of 6 team, which, I mean, they're a top end group of 6 team. They're on the better end of those schools, but still not a school that we should be losing to. So you go into Athens, and it's a weird situation. Usually teams like West Virginia are not going in and playing against MAC schools in their own stadium. It happens every once in a while, but not very often. Just offensively, we could not do anything, and the defense had their issues too. They had on both sides of the ball. We were losing in the trenches. We were not able to solidify the line of scrimmage. We were not getting any push defensively or offensively. And after the Robert Morris game, and this just goes to show actually how different the levels are of play between like an FCS school, an FBS school, MAC, Power 4, Group of 6, all that kind of stuff. Against Robert Morris, we had no issue. Like, if anything, our defense was swarming. We were winning that line of scrimmage battle. We looked real good. Offensively, I know like the PFF grades were not great, and there was some criticism on the offensive line. Overall, we were breaking off 10, 15-yard runs and things like that. So, like, in that sense, I thought the offensive line looked fine. But, again, you're doing it against an FCS school, and that just shows how different the competition is between FBS and FCS, and Robert Morris being a lower-end FCS school on top of that. So, all that to say, just really disappointing overall. And also crazy that we could not get anything going offensively. We couldn't get a pass play. We couldn't, and even if we had open receivers, or when we had open receivers, you had Nico overthrowing guys. Like he was just like forcing it, and he looked all out of sorts. Again, Henderson didn't look good. The thing is like I don't know that we. After Robert Morris, I thought like, oh, we have a pretty deep quarterback room between Nico and Henderson and Scotty Fox. But I don't know that that's the case as much. Henderson also couldn't complete a pass downfield. He couldn't, rush. And maybe it was a coaching thing. Maybe offensively, we just were not prepared. We did not have a good game plan. Defensively, Ohio had a better game plan than us, and they helped contain any scrambles and things like that. I think overall, Ohio played just a stellar game. Ohio plays any worse, and we're able to win that game, I think. But that being said, they still had 3 interceptions. They gave up 3 interceptions. Our defense gave us every opportunity that we needed to not only tie the game late, but win the game down the stretch, and we just couldn't get it done offensively. So a lot of open questions still second week of the season. It's hard to gauge who we are, but we're definitely much worse than anticipated. And that's the hard thing about playing a bad team in your first week, is it kind of gives, I think it gives some false sense of comfort in a way, both from a team standpoint and fan standpoint. I think Rich Rod kind of said it like, he was saying things after the Robert Morris game where it's like, yeah, we still need to figure things out. We're still not very good, more or less, is more or less like the vibes that he was giving off. And I think you win a game 45-3 and you're like, oh, I mean, I think we look fine. I think we look pretty good for the most part. Like, why can't we just take that and transfer it? And we're playing against a MAC team. Like it should be it's a step up, yes, but not one that you lose. In my mind, I'm like, okay, we won 45-3 against them. I'm like, okay, we should be able to beat a team like Ohio like 31-17. And I mean, we held them to 17, so I was right in that sense, but our offense just couldn't do anything. So kind of just like it was a weird game. It just felt off the entire time. It felt like there was no rhythm offensively. It felt like at a certain point there was almost no game plan offensively. Like both coaches and players were just trying to figure things out on the fly or something. And again, I think in one sense we have to remember that this is a rebuild for this program. Yes, I think having a new coach and Rich Rod coming back, and he's had success at West Virginia before, you want him to come in and just like start winning games. And that would be awesome, obviously. But I think also at the same time, 81 brand new players. We didn't even get the best players out of the portal. We got the best players we could get, but it's not even like we had 81 of the best players come and start playing for us. So we have what we could get. There's some good talent on the team still between Cam Vaughn. I think overall, I mean, I've liked what I've seen from Nico more than I've disliked what I've seen from Nico in the starts that he's had and the times that he's been in the game. That being said, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him after last weekend. So it's hard to say from a quarterback standpoint. And unless you're out in practice, you don't really see Anderson and Scotty Fox and those guys outside of what we saw against Robert Morris. So, but a brand new team, a rebuilding program. I think going into the season, thinking we could win 6 games and go 6-6 as like not a floor, but just like a reasonable expectation. Maybe I might be changing my mind about that. I think if we're struggling against a MAC team like Ohio, again, Ohio is a good for that level of competition. Like they won the MAC last season. Parker Navarro is a good quarterback, albeit he had 3 interceptions and we couldn't take advantage of it. And, that's something I'll say until I'm blue in the face. Like that's something that we can't overlook that. Like we had our opportunities, we beat ourselves. And I think in some ways we beat ourselves. In some ways, Ohio had a great defensive game plan, maybe. Hard to say exactly, but I think going into, I'm just going to kind of jump into the Pitt stuff and kind of mix it up here. But going into the Backyard Brawl this weekend, I don't feel confident at all. And it's hard to gauge with Pitt, right? They played Central Michigan last weekend and they won that game pretty handedly. And then who did they play in the first week? Just had it up. Duquesne, right? They beat Duquesne 61-9. They beat Central Michigan 45-17. So hard to gauge against those teams exactly, but they're taking care of business, and that's something that we could not do last weekend. So in that sense, looking at the sports book has this opening at a 6.5 6.5 point advantage to Pitt. Their matchup predictor gives Pitt a 59.4% chance to win. And I think that's pretty fair. I mean, basically a touchdown advantage over West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl. I don't, it's one of those things where it's like, I know that Rich Rod cares about this game. I know that Nico Marchiol cares about this game. I would imagine there's other guys like Rodney Gallagher, who was kind of a West Virginia fan as a kid and things like that. He probably cares about this game. And not to say that people don't care about the game, but you have 81 brand new players that aren't necessarily like West Virginia loyal. And that's the hard thing with college football these days is these guys are in some ways maybe like West Virginia was just the best option of a school that they could go to, and they're just trying to play college football and hopefully you got to hope that they're going to buy into the Backyard Brawl, into the rivalry and stuff. But I feel like in one sense you got to hope that they will, and hopefully I know Rich Rod is going to be instilling that in them and pushing that as much as possible. But at the same time, I don't know. Hopefully they take it seriously as much as possible. But that being said, if the talent isn't there, if our offensive line just flat out sucks, then we're kind of screwed. So like, maybe the plan is to just do a bunch of screenplays, let the initial defensive line through, and hopefully we can block out in the open, which is probably a lot, even harder to do from a blocking standpoint. But I can't pick West Virginia to win this game. I just can't after what I saw against Ohio. I hate to say it. I as a rule, never would want to pick Pitt over West Virginia, but I would be doing myself, anyone who listens to this podcast, and anyone that I talk to about college football a disservice by trying to convince them that I think West Virginia will win this game. Do I think they can win this game? 100%. There's no reason we shouldn't go out there and play our hardest. And, we're playing in Morgantown. We have home field advantage. We'll be loud. We'll get maybe you force some penalties. You've that environment is easier for our team to play in than for Pitt to play in, and maybe we just can get a slug it out type win where we just push the ball and maybe get some big plays here and there, get some stops. There's no reason why we can't win. We for sure can win the game, but is it as likely that we'll win the game than lose the game? No, I think it's more likely that we'll lose this game based on what I've seen. We've seen this team twice, 81 new players. We've seen them play against a bad team. We've seen them play against a decent team, I would say. I wouldn't call Ohio bad. I wouldn't call them great. I wouldn't even really call Ohio good. I think they're did I just call them good? Maybe they're good. They're a decent team. Is that what I said? They're decent. So I don't know. I think it's still hard to make a prediction. I think if anything, if we could only score 10 points against Ohio, what can we do against an actual Power 4 team in Pitt? Can we even score 10 points, right? Like from a score standpoint, maybe I think I would pick Pitt to win this game, like, I don't know, 24-14. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I definitely don't think I can pick West Virginia, which it's hard to say that as a West Virginia fan. So yeah, we'll see what we can do, what we can roll out there, but I definitely don't feel as confident about this Pitt game as I was going in. It just felt like the vibes were right. Like, how could we lose to Pitt in Rich Rod's first season back and all these things? But if you're being realistic and you're looking at the roster turnover and again, just seeing what we saw on Saturday against Ohio, like it's hard to think realistically that we'll win this game, which is, again, hard for me to say, and I feel wrong. It feels wrong coming out of my mouth. So we'll see. I'm still pumped to be there. I'm pumped to be in Morgantown for the Backyard Brawl. I'm pumped to be in the stadium and cheering on the team. And hopefully it's still just as loud, and the confidence in the fan base. There's some confidence in the fan base that can help create a real good home field advantage. And the thing is like at this point, like West Virginia fans are pissed off about this last weekend. And so coming into the Backyard Brawl, we're going to be pissed off still, and we'll be pouring all of our energy out into that game and into beating Pitt. So do I think it's likely? Like I said, probably not. Again, I'm just basing it off of what I've seen the last 2 weeks. We've seen one really good performance. We've seen one really bad performance. Can we somehow mix those two and stuff? But at a certain point, also part of it, it's not just performance wise, it's talent. We have guys that we're just not blocking. We have guys that we have, a lot of people are saying like this is the worst, one of the worst offensive lines that they've seen at West Virginia, maybe in their lifetime or in the last 20 years, or, it's going to take time. We're in a rebuild. So in one sense, while it's hard to lose games and you have high expectations and you think that you can, for me as a fan, you go in and you think you can win every game, or you have a chance to win every game that you play, which is what makes sports fun. But it makes it that much more disappointing when you end up losing. So a mix of being hopeful, optimistic, and also realistic can put you in a tough spot. But I mean, I think anyone that's not just like a complete homer, being a complete homer, is going to should pick Pitt to win this game. And there's a reason why we're the underdogs now going into this game, which before the season, when I was going through my picks and stuff, before the season, we were favored to win this game. And again, that's going off of who knows what, because who knows what anyone knew about this team, because nobody knew anything about this team going into the season. But we were favored going into the season. And now after losing to Ohio, we are 6.5 point underdogs. So we'll see. I mean, I think 6.5 points it's not a ton. I mean, we were only 2.5 point favorites against Ohio, and that showed us that real small margin proved to be correct. So 6.5 points, it's basically a touchdown difference. Can we get some interceptions? Can we get a stop? The thing that I'm worried about on the defensive side is keeping Holstein in play. I mean, I think in the pocket. I think we didn't do a great job against Navarro, keeping him inside the pocket. I think he was able to scramble around a lot and make things happen. And again, we held them to 17 points, so we forced some turnovers. So there was some good spots on the defense, but a mobile quarterback is always real scary when you're not super confident in your defense. Our secondary, for the most part of the game, did not look very good. Towards the second half and the end of the game, we were starting to get some stops and interceptions and making some plays. So that was really good to see. So we'll see what we can do, what we can throw out there, and hopefully we can get this win against Pitt. Either way, I'm pumped to be out in Morgantown. I'll be planning to film some content out there, tailgating and the like. We get in on Thursday night, and we'll be in Morgantown Friday. Obviously, the game's Saturday afternoon, and then should be a good time. So if you guys see me out there, if you guys follow me on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, if you listen to the podcast, if you see me out there, definitely come say hi. I'll definitely make a post or something on X, probably just letting y'all know that I'll be out there and seeing if any, tailgating and all that stuff, seeing if we can meet up, say hi, take a picture, something like that. So anyways, super pumped for the Backyard Brawl. Hopefully we can come out with our best and get a big win and go on from there. All right. Thank you all for listening. Go Mountaineers. Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and share it with your friends. And as always, go Mountaineers.